It look like if an outsider ran against a tyrannical government that pretends they're not... Well, we don't have to imagine it, we saw it firsthand and are still seeing it today. Give me liberty or give me death. These immortal words from Patrick Henry echo through the annals of American history, a clarion call for freedom against tyranny. Today, we find ourselves at a similar crossroads, with Donald J. Trump as the modern-day Patrick Henry, rallying the troops against what many perceive to be a tyrannical government. Just as the British imposed unjust taxes and stifled free speech in colonial America, we see similar actions today. First off, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the perception that we're living under a tyrannical government. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tyrannical? Come on. But hear me out. The Democrats have been pushing policies that many conservatives see as an infringement on their rights. From gun control measures to censorship on social media platforms, the list goes on. Thomas Jefferson once said, "When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty."
For which it stands.
Does the government fear the people today? You be the judge. Enter Donald Trump. The man has been a beacon of awareness, shining a light on the issues that many felt were being swept under the rug. He's been treated horribly by the media, impeached twice, and yet he's still standing. Remember the Stamp Act? The British imposed it on the American colonies, taxing every piece of printed paper. Fast forward to today, and we see the government imposing restrictions and regulations that infringe upon our freedoms. From attempts to control the narrative through media censorship to imposing regulations that stifle small businesses, the parallels are uncanny. As Samuel Adams said, it does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen on setting brushfires of freedom in the minds of men. Trump has cast himself as engaged in his final battle to return to the White House. He's not just fighting against the Democrats, he's fighting against what he perceives to be a corrupt system. And let's not forget, during the American Revolution, those who supported it were considered rebels, outsiders, even traitors. Today, Trump and his supporters are often labeled the same. Just as the British used the courts to suppress the colonists, Trump faces a slew of legal challenges designed to silence him. He's up against charges against him, but let's not forget, these are the same tactics used to silence dissent throughout history. As Thomas Jefferson wisely said, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. Despite the relentless attacks from the media, the never-ending investigations, and the constant attempts to cancel him, Trump remains a force to be reckoned with. His rallies are still packed, his influence is still palpable, and his message is still resonating with millions of Americans. Why? Because people are tired of the status quo. They're tired of being told what to think, what to say, and how to live their lives by a government that seems more interested in power than in serving the people. Trump has been vocal about the existence of a deep state that operates behind the scenes, manipulating the levers of power for their own benefit. And let's be honest, it's hard to argue against that when you see how he's been treated. The impeachment trials, the media bias, the social media bans. These are not the actions of a democratic society. These are the actions of a tyrannical regime trying to silence an outsider who threatens their grip on power. As Thomas Paine said, the duty of a patriot is to protect his country from its government. During the American Revolution, it was the common people, the farmers and the shopkeepers who took up arms to fight for their freedoms. They were the Minutemen, ready to fight at a moment's notice.
Under God.
Today, the common people are often the silent majority that Trump speaks to. These are the hard-working Americans who feel overlooked and unheard by a government they believe is increasingly out of touch with their lives. They see Trump as their modern-day George Washington, leading the charge against a government they view as tyrannical. The American Revolution wasn't just a battle against the British, it was also a civil war of sorts, pitting neighbor against neighbor. There were the Loyalists, who remained faithful to the British crown, and the Patriots, who sought independence. Today, we see a similar divide between Democrats and Republicans, especially those in the Trump camp. The division is so intense that friendships have ended and families have been torn apart. Yet, just as the Patriots stood firm in their convictions, so do Trump supporters who believe they are fighting for the very soul of America. One of the rallying cries of the American Revolution was, "No taxation without representation." The colonists were fed up with paying taxes to a government in which they had no voice. Today, many Americans feel similarly burdened by what they see as excessive taxation and regulation, often imposed by officials they didn't vote for or don't agree with. Trump's economic policies, including tax cuts, aim to alleviate these burdens and give power back to the people, echoing the sentiments of our founding fathers. Trump, for all his flamboyance and controversy, has often been the voice calling for a return to the principles that Hamilton and his contemporaries held dear. He's been a disruptor, challenging the status quo and shaking the foundations of the political establishment. In doing so, he's exposed the cracks in our system, much like the founding fathers did when they challenged the British monarchy. James Madison, known as the father of the Constitution, once said, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary." This is a stark reminder that government exists because humans are flawed. The checks and balances built into our system are designed to prevent any one branch from gaining too much power. Trump's battles with Congress and the judiciary are a modern manifestation of this age-old struggle between governance and liberty. Thomas Paine, the author of Common Sense, which galvanized the American colonies toward revolution, declared, "The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph." Trump's journey has been fraught with conflict, both from within his party and from his opponents. Yet he remains a figure that galvanizes millions. The role of the citizen in a democracy is not to be underestimated. As Thomas Jefferson put it, an informed citizenry is at the heart of a dynamic democracy. The Trump era has seen an unprecedented level of political engagement, with record voter turnouts and widespread grassroots movements. Whether you agree with him or not, Trump has awakened a sense of civic duty in millions, reminding us all that democracy is not a spectator sport. John Adams once said, "Liberty, once lost, is lost forever." We stand on the precipice of a new revolution, a revolution that will define the future of this great nation. Donald Trump has been the catalyst, the spark that has ignited the flame of liberty in the hearts of millions. Just as the 45% of colonists rose against British tyranny, we too must rise. We must rise against the forces that seek to suppress us, to control us, and to dictate the course of our lives.
I am your voice.
You know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm. What the storm could be, the calm before the storm. We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're not great evening. Thank you all for coming.
What storm is it?
You'll find out. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, what did you mean by calm before the storm yesterday? What did you mean by that?
Thank you very much. You'll find out.
We'll find out.
Thank you. See.
I got you.